went to the petrol station and all of the signs of the prices were 99999, which essentially means there is no petrol left. I'm predicting it's going to take about 1 or 2 weeks before most petrol stations won't have any petrol.
These situations can start to expose who are the real entrepreneurs and who are those that have just been riding this wave and been successful because of just the conditions.
After COVID, we had this reconfiguration of what do people want, what do people like, what's value, can we do things better? That's what we mean by conference fatigue. It's like, what are we doing here?
Don't panic, look at your numbers. If you don't know how to interpret them, get help from someone that can. Making decisions quickly is key, because if you wait and then get to a point where things are dire, then you're panicked. And when you're panicked, you make bad decisions.
Welcome to Inside Aesthetics, the world's leading podcast for cosmetic practitioners and business owners.
Our podcasts are aimed at medical professionals and should not be used to make medical, legal, or financial decisions. You should get an appropriately tailored piece of advice from a professional in your country.
To show your support and stay up to date with our latest episodes, click the follow button if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're watching our episodes on YouTube, hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon.
If you're interested in joining our online community, being a guest on the podcast, or would like to work with us, all of our contact details are in the show notes. And now, let's jump into today's episode.
Welcome to another episode of What's Trending in Aesthetics.
Yes, chapter 17.
There's a lot happening at the moment.
It's April 1st, April Fool's Day, just for some context. And
It's my namesake day.
yeah, the fool, the jester. But yeah, we thought we would tackle a few things going on in the world. Obviously, front and center is what's going on in the Middle East and the spill out of the impact on the economy and fuel and all that kind of crazy stuff. And then we'll go on a deeper dive into how that's going to affect aesthetic businesses and some of the things that you've been hearing through the grapevine about already having an impact. Then we'll cover something maybe a little bit more specific to Australia, but it'll be interesting to get audience's feedback about this. But this credit card surcharges. So when you pay on a credit card here in Australia, it's very normal to charge a small percentage to cover the card fee. Now, that works in different parts of the world differently, but we'll talk about that because the law has changed. Mm-hmm. And then finally, this thing about conference fatigue. We have touched on it previously, but it sort of came up again because you and I are at a local event with Hugel a week ago, who did their own event rather than being present at a more major national event, and just topics around where we're going with education, what's good and what's bad.
Yeah. And I guess maybe what the future looks like. How do we potentially continue to innovate the education process? Because,
Cool.
Let's jump in.
So let's talk about the Middle East. We're not here to talk about politics or the rightness of it, but more just the impact of it. So, front and center, it's the petrol, the fuel crisis. So if you don't get enough oil to a country, obviously then that has an impact on transport, but everything else, fertilizer, food, shopping, everything. And that's obviously filters down eventually to our businesses. So first of all, what's your bird's eye view on where are we at? I mean, it doesn't look like the war's going to stop anytime soon. So this is going to be probably several months long thing or longer, not weeks.
Yeah. Well, and this is kind of where you start to see the downsides of global economies. And we sort of got a peak of this during COVID, where countries were scrambling for medications and sort of masks, and no one could get them because China produces everything.
Yeah.
And so we live in this world now where everything's connected. We all have become addicted to cheap goods. And now when you get a situation where there's the inability to get it around the world, there's wars going on, disruption, then all of the countries that used to be more self-sufficient are now at the mercy of these challenges. So, Australia creates a whole heap of natural resources, but we export it. We don't actually have a large supply of our own energy. And this is where the downside starts to come in. It's highly efficient, it's highly cost effective when it's working, but it's very volatile. And it's a very volatile situation because it doesn't take much to disrupt that chain, and then when it does, you're kind of very vulnerable.
Yeah, 100%.
And so as you said, everything's connected. So what's happening in the Middle East? Those boats can't get through the Strait of Hormuz, can't get fuel here. Okay, well then, as you said, first it starts with everyday people not being able to drive as much. Then it affects supply chains with everything, but like the most important ones, obviously food. You drive an EV, so you're
maybe sort of haven't been to a petrol station recently.
No, but I'm hearing my friends, I'm watching their Instagram posts.
Yeah, I mean, look, I live in the lower North Shore of Sydney, and it's a well-to-do area. And I went to the petrol station, and all of the signs of the prices were 99999, which essentially means there is no petrol left.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, whatever. Went to the next one, and it was half empty. Now, of course, the prices are crazy as well. That's besides the point. But I'm predicting, and I don't have any inside knowledge, but it's going to take about 1 or 2 weeks before most petrol stations won't have any petrol. Mm-hmm. It's not going to take that long, especially when everyone's demand is crazy and they're going every day to top up rather than going in a more timely, normal fashion.
And then you get the people that will, the same people that went and grabbed 300 rolls of toilet paper during COVID are the same people that are pulling, gone to Bunnings. You can't buy jerry cans anymore because people are going to service stations and stockpiling their own fuel. So it doesn't take much. Like our whole society is held together with, a very on-demand, timely supply of goods and services. And if you have a disruption to that, then, all of the niceties and people thinking about other people, that just vanishes. We return to our basic animal instinct, which is every man for himself.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much. And then, God forbid, people start missing meals.
Well, yeah.
How long does it take?
That's really my worry. And we'll get on to how this affects businesses. But of course, if you can't drive, you can't get anywhere. So we may be forced into, I'm not going to call it a lockdown, but a lock-in, because you just can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not that you're not allowed, you just can't. So unless you've got an EV, a bike, or you live near public transport, of course, patients won't be able to get to your clinic, and I won't be able to get to my clinic, for example. Mm-hmm. So it's not just a case of supply chains, it's just logistics. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did read today that, maybe we're going to get another delivery to Australia by April 30th. So maybe the effect won't be so imminent, but at some point we're going to run out of fuel if this doesn't sort itself out.
Yeah. And then, what does it look like? Because if people can't get to work, then there's no money being stimulated, there's no tax being paid. What happens to people's debts with various
banks? You got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay your rent still.
Yeah, so they were kind of back in a COVID-style situation, but just the impetus is different. And so where does it all end? I mean, I heard, and this is the problem as well, we've got this 24-hour news cycle, we've got independent media, we've got varying levels of trust with mainstream because, we've been lied to so many times about so many things that people don't know what to believe anymore. And so there's confusion, and confusion obviously creates anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that, Australia's doing deals with some of the Asian countries where we're exchanging LPG gas for fuel.
Yeah.
So we're kind of trying to circumvent the challenge of the fuel coming via the Middle East. I don't know.
Well, it's still got to come from the Middle East to get to Asia anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And then there's a lot of people getting angry at our governments, which is fair enough because, they're voted in to take care of the welfare of the country and its citizens. And I think I was reading an article that they actually war gamed this scenario about 12 months ago, what a fuel crisis would look like. Mm. And yet we have 30 days supply or something ridiculous. And so what are our leaders actually, what are they doing?
It's hard, isn't it? I mean, just like you said at the start, you could make your own everything and be pretty inefficient.
Yeah.
Or you can give it to someone else to do and be highly efficient. But as soon as there's any disruption, it all falls to pieces.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what the argument is. But, having moved to Australia, it seems like a very resource-rich country.
Yeah. And
it feels like we've been shortchanged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, what does the long-term flow-on effect of this look like where, does this cause an intense global depression?
Yeah.
Because, again, once consumer confidence diminishes, people stop spending, the economy only works when there's money moving, when the supply of money is moving through different hands. As soon as that stops, then everything kind of collapses. Yeah. And then so, when was the last depression? Was it in the 20s, I think it was?
Yeah, was it early 30s?
Yeah. Big difference between then and now is that most people still grew their own food. My grandfather lived through the Depression. He's still alive. He's almost 101. People had their own veggie gardens. They exchanged food with local farmers. People were much more self-sufficient than they are now. They had real practical skills. Most people these days, myself included to a certain extent, they can't, build shelter for themselves. They don't know how to grow food. A lot of people don't know how to cook. You know, we've just become this very lazy society when we've built up skills in jobs that could be completely irrelevant and useless in a situation where you need to actually get food.
I'll come around to yours. You're a good cook.
So, yeah, it exposes kind of, in some ways, how we're so advanced, but how we've left ourselves so vulnerable in a lot of ways.
So it's funny, I was speaking to Injector yesterday. She'll know exactly who she is if she's listening. I won't mention her name. And she said to me, kind of looking forward to it because we were so busy after COVID. And I was like, yeah, but that was just fake demand with fake money, and it created this bubble that we're now living through. I mean, the petrol crisis is a bit different, but we've had this whole inflation issue for years now because of that pent-up demand and that printed money that the government gave people for staying in their house. Yeah. It would be terrible.
Well, when you print money, as we've spoken about, there's more of it in circulation, and that increases inflation. So, you end up where, you need to bring a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread, like it doesn't, it's kind of, it's a false economy. Yeah. Like if there's all this extra money, then it becomes devalued.
And I do not want to be working for 21 days in a row again just to see the amount of people that I haven't seen. It was crazy. I mean, yes, it felt like so great to be liberated and go back to work. That was cool, but it was all just fake demand. Yeah. It wasn't real.
So, I mean, and you sort of said, well, how long is this war going to take to resolve? I don't know. I mean, from what I'm looking at, and I keep a pretty close eye on geopolitics, as you know, because I'm always telling you about it, and you're like, okay, crazy, David. But
I watch it as well. It's just how deep you go into it and the causes.
I don't see a quick end to this conflict.
No.
I think America's kind of committed itself now, and neither side wants to show weakness. Iran is a very, despite what a lot of people may think, they're a very intelligent race of people. They've been preparing for this conflict for many, 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 many years. And so I don't see it resolving quickly. And I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that someone waves a white flag, or someone sensible comes in, or some kind of third party arbitrator comes in and manages to, make everyone look at common sense outcomes. Yeah. But in the event that it's not a quick resolution, then there's going to have to be workarounds. There's going to have to be fuel coming from different parts of the world. Yep. Maybe this will be an impetus for countries to go, okay, well, globalism is great and global trade is something that we want to have, but we also need to be energy independent. We can't rely on, international trade for the very most basic of requirements that a country needs to sustain itself.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought, Australia, we live in basically a desert. Why the fuck don't we build a massive solar panel in the middle of the country and just route it to the cities? I mean, yes, it'd be expensive, but it's doable. And maybe it's just the gas and petrol companies that stop that. I don't know, the lobbying or whatever, but it would be logical.
Yeah. Well,
why not?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then there's that's the thing where there's politics involved, and interest groups and powerful companies that don't want certain things to go a certain way. So does that stifle the advancement in energy production? Our sort of way of producing energy hasn't really evolved. Our infrastructure has not really changed much.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly much more popular to have solar panel.
Of course. And, but even solar's actually not that efficient, really.
Well, it's got a lot better, but you're right. It's still not on par with burning shit from the ground.
Burning fossil fuels. So I don't know. I don't know where it's all going to end up, but I guess we just need to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best and remain optimistic. And when you're panicked and you're stressed about things, you do make bad decisions. And I guess that kind of could lead us into part of the discussion around, how does this impact our businesses?
Yeah. Well, it's a good time to maybe go into a bit more specific. So you were talking to a colleague yesterday, I think you said, and they noticed they're pretty quiet compared to this time last year. Now, I don't know if that translates to your average clinic, but certainly a lot of people saying, whoa, it's a bit of a tricky start to this year.
Yeah.
And that was pre this fuel crisis. The fuel crisis only been going for 4 weeks, but we're now into April. So what's your take on Q1 of 2026?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are some people that are still kicking butt, doing really, really well, but there's also a lot of people that are finding it tough. And I mean, this person I was talking to yesterday has a highly successful business. They have other people working for them, other injectors, therapists, really successful. And they said to me, we're down X amount of dollars on this period last year, and it wasn't an insignificant amount of money. And we're just sort of going back and forth with some ideas and thoughts on the situation. And I said to this person, well, this is kind of where we need to go back to basic thinking, and these situations can start to expose who are the real entrepreneurs, who are the real business people, and who are those that have just been riding this wave and been successful because of just the conditions. So being a clever business person and someone that's astute is to look at things rationally, analyze your numbers, not to make emotional decisions, and those decisions should be based on what are your numbers telling you. And sometimes those decisions might be difficult. So in this particular scenario, this person, as I said, has got a number of different providers working for them. And the client numbers have dropped, and obviously the dollar per client has dropped, and a number of visits per year have dropped. And I said to this person, is this just affecting the number of clients you're seeing? Is there particular people of your team who've borne the brunt of the decrease in the number of patients and the amount they're spending? If so, maybe you need to look at contracting the size of your business. Maybe you actually need to go, okay, well, the business has fundamentally changed. The conditions are different to what they were 12 months ago. And maybe I need to make a tough decision to say that this business can't support all these staff members anymore. Because if you're now diluting all the reduced numbers amongst the same number of people and you're still paying these people a salary, your business is going to eventually start hemorrhaging profit. Yeah,
I've definitely seen that from people that I know as well.
So,
because business isn't always linear, right?
No.
You have good times and bad times, peaks and troughs. And of course, if you've done well a few years ago and you've expanded your team, that doesn't mean it will always be the case.
Yeah.
Or you won't have some bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But that can obviously be challenging because you set up a team, you maybe have expanded your practice, you've got more rooms, more devices, so that kind of needs to be serviced.
Yeah, so as I said, it all comes down to the data. So being comfortable with your numbers. If you're in a position where you don't know how to interpret your numbers, then you need to reach out and get help from someone that does. So like a business coach. I do a lot of this with people, all over the world. So I can't even count the number of different financial statements I've read from different people, but they all tell a similar story a lot of the time, especially when these trends happening globally. Or your accountant should be able to sit down with you and have a really informed discussion and help you make these decisions and help you interpret these numbers. You don't want to sit and wait and work out that you've been bleeding money and now you've actually got to start putting money in from your own pocket or pulling money out of your mortgage. You don't want to be in that panic situation. You need to look at your numbers today.
Yeah. So, every business will be different. But again, you sort of said when you're interrogating your numbers, it's more just, okay, well, obviously I'm making less than last year, but why?
Yeah, why? So if the numbers are down, then the next step is, okay, well, how are the numbers down? Is it profit has decreased but revenue's still the same? Is it both? Usually if you've got a decrease in number of patients and spend, you're going to have a decrease in your profit and you're going to have a decrease in the amount of revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, this is then also why you need to know, well, what's my weekly break-even point or what's my monthly break-even point? How much does my business need to be generating over that period to cover all of its expenses? Okay, fine. What can I do to reduce those fixed expenses? Do I offload a device? Do I look at subletting some of my rooms that I'm not using? Like, also, what's my resource allocation? Like, how much of my resources are actually being used? So your physical resources, so rooms, things like devices, and then you've got your human resources, like how much of your staff actually being utilized. And that's when you start to look at potentially cutting things down so that your business stops hemorrhaging money.
Yeah. Does this person have any idea of why there are less bums on seats?
It's the same as what everyone else is saying. It's just patient trends have changed. They're spreading out their appointments. They're spending less. There's less new inquiries coming in. So there's people that are sort of, not sort of becoming new patients or new customers to this business. So it's sort of like a multitude of lots of different little things. I haven't looked at her numbers with her yet. So this has just been us having a bit of a back and forth and just sort of discussing the idea and the concepts.
Do you think that's an Australian average trend, or is it a global trend, or more specific for her business?
I think it's global.
Right.
I think everyone's being impacted in some way or another. There are some outliers. Like I do still talk to people everywhere who are still busier than they've ever been. They've got more patients than they know what to do with. They, sort of similar situation to you. They can't fit any more new patients. It's like a month to 6 weeks to get in to see anyone within their business. But those people are like the outliers.
Yeah. I'm very lucky. And it for me, it's purely because I've been doing this a long time. So my regulars are essentially still with me. Of course, the odd one moves or leaves, but generally I've sustained that. plus any new people who come in just add to the database. So at some point, it's just a capacity issue. And, you know, I'm doing this podcast and we're building our app that I've got other projects to dedicate my time to. So I'm actually not a 5-day-a-week injector anymore. So, you know, my time is limited as well. But what strings can people pull? Okay, so they've looked at their numbers. They maybe have some sort of idea of, okay, it was dermal therapist isn't performing. That device is underutilized. Some frank discussions, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those things, you need to look at every potential possibility where you can reduce the number of fixed expenses or the amount of fixed expenses that are draining your P&L. You know, maybe you're in a clinic that's too big. Maybe you need to move to a smaller location. As I said, maybe if you've got rooms that aren't being utilised, maybe you can sub-rent them out to, you know, other complementary services. You know, do you look at where your marketing dollars are going? Can you spend them more intelligently? Do you look at different suppliers of your products? Do you look at your pricing? Are there ways you can be more efficient with your time? You've got lots of levers that you can pull, but it's just being methodical. But the first step is to identify, you know, where are the issues, and being prepared to make decisions, and sometimes making decisions quickly. You know, speed to react is really important in this environment. If you kind of sitting on the fence for too long, sometimes it's worse to have indecision than to make the wrong decision. If you make the wrong decision, then you can usually correct it. But if you just sit on the fence and wait, it's like standing in the middle of the road.
You got to do something. You got to run or get back to the other side.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and this is, you know, you might need to let people go. You might need to have difficult discussions with people, but just like people going and filling up jerry cans at the service station, it is every man for himself sometimes, unfortunately.
So linking this back to the current crisis with, I guess, the aesthetic downturn. Can you think of any scenarios that we should be thinking about? For example, if patients can't get to us, or if you can't get to your clinic, I mean, what should we be communicating to our database? I mean, we don't really know. That's the problem.
The problem is we don't know, and I don't think we've even heard much from our leaders yet. I mean, I heard there's like a fuel excise coming, but I don't know how long that's going to take.
That started today. April 1st.
Right. So how long is it actually going to take to come into effect and start having an impact on people? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you didn't hear, they're dropping about 26 cents a litre to try and help people with, you know, the increase in costs. So they've cut tax by 50% off fuel duties. But, you know, you need fuel first. That's going to be the bigger problem. It's not the price of it. It's getting it. But anyway, I guess we should be a little bit appreciative for the next couple of weeks if we can get fuel, that it won't be as crazy priced. But, you know, supply and demand, it will just go up and up. Regardless of that.
And it's happening everywhere. So, I mean, you know, maybe we'll see people choosing different providers that are within walking distance of their home.
I mean, you know, I remember during COVID, we bounced in and out of these lockdowns, and it was so frustrating because I'd communicate with my and then thousands of people that I'm coming back, and then suddenly I'm not. And that communication that was ineffective or the wrong information causes chaos. So be very clear with whatever message you put out. Make sure it's, you know, concrete. Otherwise, it just creates confusion and frustration, and it creates headaches.
So I think the take-home message is, you know, don't panic. Look at your numbers. If you don't know how to interpret them, get help from someone that can. Making decisions quickly is key, and sort of mapping out different scenarios and trying to play things out to what if I make decision A, what potentially could happen, what's the worst case scenario under this, you know, under this example. Okay, well, can I live with that? What happens in, you know, if things do get really bad, what's my position? Because if you wait and then get to a point where things are dire, then you're panicked. And when you're panicked, you make bad decisions. Like, you never want to make an important decision or any decision when you're in a state of stress, because your brain actually isn't functioning at full capacity.
You're a planner for worst case scenarios with doomsday and bomb shelters and whatever.
I don't have a bomb shelter.
Like, joking aside, do you think that, and I don't want to create panic here, do you think that people should be stocking up on some tin food and thinking about certain things?
Well, I have been for the last period of time. Just in case, because I've thought, well, I'll just start slowly accumulating things, and if nothing happens, then I'll just slowly eat it anyway.
Cat litter.
Cat litter. Yeah, exactly. No, I know. I mean, I think, you know, it's difficult. I mean, how do you sort of keep stuff long term? It's you either can stuff yourself, so you get start getting into like homesteading and canning your own food, which we do. Do you grow your own vegetables? Like, do you look for items that are going to sustain you through a period where there may be challenges with food? It's like, I mean, but eventually, you
kind of used the joke of the toilet roll in COVID. I mean, I still can't get my head around why that happened, but it did. So I guess what I'm saying is, as petrol runs out and supply chains diminish, people will clear the shelves.
Yeah, they will.
That's just what's going to happen. So thinking ahead of that, maybe just try and be a little bit clever.
Yeah, think ahead. Don't wait till things are rushing.
Yeah.
And don't be one of these maniacs that goes in, because then it starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is the problem when you get this like mass hysteria. Maybe that's why the government isn't saying too much at the moment, because as soon as they say something that's going to scare people,
it will just cause panic.
It then creates this self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone goes, oh shit, and everyone does the same thing at the same time, and then it actually does become a reality.
Correct. I mean, it's funny. I feel like I'm living in a warped reality. Some friends are going to drive 3 hours to the country for Easter. No care in the world about petrol prices, anything. Mm-hmm. Other people have cancelled trips and they're going to kind of batten down and wait and see what happens over the next 3 weeks. And it's kind of like, it seems like some people are just not caring or knowing, and other people are almost too scared. And it's like, it's interesting.
Yeah. I'm just trying to take a middle ground. I'm trying to there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
And the reality is, even if you've got like a month's supply of food more than the next person, I mean, if things get really bad... What, you got an extra month than everyone else? I mean,
could be the difference.
I don't know. I don't want people to panic out of this. I think it's just around be sensible. From a business perspective, as I said, look at your numbers. Yeah. Be actually aware of what's going on and be prepared to make quick decisions if you need to.
Yeah. Dave and I had a meeting with a pharma company yesterday, and one insight is that they're obviously talking about this at a management level about what do we do with our supply chain? Can we get stuff to clinics? And obviously there are some contingencies in place, and I think most of at least the larger pharma companies, they have at least 6 months of stock, like it's in the country, because of course it comes from abroad. So I don't think we would see any immediate impact on supply to our clinic. It would be more our clinics, can they be open, and can our patients get to us? That's the immediate concern from me anyway. So all right, well, we've kind of scared everyone to death with that one.
That little cheery topic.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about this whole credit card surcharge situation. So here in Australia, it's very normal. If I go and pay for a good, whether it's a coffee, toxin, or a sofa, with my credit card, I accept that there's going to be a small percentage extra fee on top of the advertised price. And that's because the card handler charges the shop, to use their terminal and the service, and that get passed on to me as the customer. And I personally think it's fair. I don't think it's right that we have to pay more than what something's valued at, but nevertheless, that's how the world works. Whether you're Apple Pay, MasterCard, Visa, Amex, there's a charge behind this. In other countries, it's actually quite different. So I read today that in the UK, it was banned in 2018. You can't add a surcharge to a price. Same for most of Europe. And then America, it depends on what state you're in. But here it's pretty normal. But yesterday, the government announced they're going to get rid of that. It will be illegal to add on a surcharge. So I guess relating this to aesthetics and the economy and all the things that we were just talking about, I think that you would agree that a lot of people have never added on a surcharge. They're too scared to charge people kind of more, as it were. And as a result, they're making less. So from that perspective, I guess it's good to be transparent with what is the cost. But I don't know if you just want to sort of build on, well, why is this relevant? Why are we talking about this?
Well, I mean, obviously, not being able to pass on that surcharge for those people that have been charging it, it's going to make a difference to their margin.
Yeah.
And depending on the basket size and how much you're charging, these are now the factors that start playing into how do you analyze what your margin is, how that's going to impact the profitability of your business. Do you look at having to potentially revise your pricing to be able to account for, so even though it's not legal to add it on at the checkout, when you're charging people, do you actually put a buffer on your price to be able to allow for this? So, it's... and
that's hard because, I don't know, if you're paying with an Amex, sometimes it's as much as 3%. So 3% of $1,000 or a $3,000 checkout, depending on what you're doing, is a huge difference. So it's hard to build it into your pricing exactly.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, unfortunately, I think businesses are just going to wear it, unfortunately. And, it's just another sort of, attack on small business, which is kind of feels like it's in the firing line of, every decision at the moment is impacting small businesses' ability to be profitable.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's reasonable if you pay for a $5 coffee that it's actually $5.20 because of the charge? I mean, do you have a fundamental ethical issue with it, or do you think it's reasonable?
I don't really have...
I mean, do you even care? Do you even think about it?
I don't really, no. Because, I mean, it is a small amount in the scheme of things, and I understand that businesses that run on tight margins, it's the bank is making the money on this.
Yeah.
So do we look at banks not being able to charge? I mean, should we be attacking small businesses, or should we be actually asking banks to be wearing this? They're the ones that are imposing these fees.
Yeah.
And it's digital. Is it really costing them anything to do it?
Yeah.
Transaction?
I mean, in my clinic, as far as I know, I'm only there on the days that I'm there and checking out my patients. No one's ever had an issue. It's never come up. So I was kind of surprised. But speaking to a lot of our community, it seems that some people did push back and say, well, I'm going to pay in cash.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a valid option unless your clinic, for whatever reason, doesn't take cash. So I guess from my perspective, patients still have choice. They can choose, well, which card do you want to use first of all? MasterCard's cheaper than Amex. Or do you want to bring cash? No problem. So it's not that patients didn't already have choice. I'm kind of not sure why it became an issue.
Yeah, I don't know either, to be honest with you. And then I guess, what are businesses' responses to it going to be? I mean, are they going to offer patients to pay by bank transfer?
Yeah.
Are they going to look at, other options? There are like a lot of smart, companies that are sort of starting to come into the space that are offering a lot more competitive. Like I know we use a company called Wise for a lot of our transaction, because like the fees are minimal compared to especially when we're dealing with overseas clients.
Yeah.
Like the amount of fees and charges you'll pay for a telegraphic transfer, like an international transfer, is not insignificant.
Yeah.
And so there might be options. Like when this sort of situation arises, this gives an opportunity for an innovator to come in and disrupt and potentially have a workaround so that people aren't paying these fees, or they make they're charging a much lower amount.
Yeah. I guess the bottom line is, if you haven't thought about this already, look at your numbers.
Yeah.
Going back to the numbers thing.
Well, exactly. And you start adding that in. Again, these are discussions that you have with, a business coach or your accountant, and actually start to work out, okay, well, based on last year's numbers, if I apply this new transaction fee to all the transactions that came through via card payment, what difference does that make to the profitability of my business?
Well, if your margins are low and you're chopping another 1 to 3% off, that's could be the difference between make or break, right?
Yeah, especially for those clinics that are lower price point, higher volume. Like the chain clinics are probably the ones that are going to feel this the most, to be honest with you, because they rely on a high volume of patients to sustain themselves. The high volume of patients is also accompanied with low margins.
Yeah.
So, if they have a decrease in number of patients, number of times they're coming, and they're having to wear a fee, is that enough to potentially change the sustainability of that business model? I don't know what their margins look like these days, and obviously it's going to vary from business to business. But
do you have any business stance on whether it's professional to allow a bank transfer? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a bit clunky.
It is a bit clunky, but I think, as I said, there are ways that it is getting a bit slicker with apps where you can actually do that. Yeah, again.
I mean, it's the smoothest way. There's no fee. It's
instant.
Often
it's
instant,
a tap,
especially if it's to the same bank.
Yeah.
It just feels a bit weird.
Yeah, it does. It's not. It's definitely not the norm, especially if you're like paying for a coffee.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, like paying for like a medical service where, you've been there for half an hour, you're not talking about $5, you're talking about hundreds or thousands of dollars. That's probably a slightly different proposition to like, a $5 coffee and a toasted sandwich. It's probably very different.
Slightly off topic, and I just thought I'd add it in. The cost of renting these terminals or other sort of pay gateways. I mean, do you have any comments about that? Because it comes up in our chats a lot about, well, I pay X and I pay Y, and sometimes I buy the thing outright, sometimes I rent it per month. Like, do you have any sort of comments on what people should be thinking about, or maybe not realizing the hidden fees to these things?
Well, I mean, we've got AI now, so you should be using, all the tools that you have at your disposal to do comparisons between all the different options that you have available to you. So there's ways that you can kind of do your research in a fairly quickly and time efficient way.
Yeah.
So I'd be looking at that. I'd be plugging in, if you're looking at Stripe or, Square, using all the different, the regular suppliers of terminals. I'd be looking at everything, to be honest with you. I would just be like weighing up all the different options using AI to help aggregate them and come up with the most cost-effective solution for my business. But, use the tools that you have available to you.
Yeah, a lot of our community have, discussed their various percentages that they have to give away a month. And then they realized they were probably paying too much. And they just went to their provider and said, hey, can you do a better deal? And they went, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just as simple as asking the question.
You could save several percent just by asking the question.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to lose your customer, obviously.
Of course, but it also helps when you've got a cheaper option somewhere else. So if you actually do your research and you can say, well, I can actually get this over here for X. Here's the offer. Can you match it?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a bit like, changing a mobile phone provider. It's just painful to have to change.
Yeah, and that's what they're kind of relying on.
That's what they're relying on.
You don't want to go through most people don't even realize they're paying these surcharges. It hasn't really been significant enough for them to actually worry about, but it's probably getting to a point where it's going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Let's talk about our final topic, conference fatigue, and I guess education in general. So you and I were invited to the Hugel Symposium. They've also got a relationship with Chroma, who make fillers, the safer fillers. And so, a big, well-known pharma company. And you were doing business talks, and we did a live podcast. But I guess the purpose of mentioning it is that they held their own event.
Yeah, which I thought was great, by the way.
It wasn't part of, a sort of a more long-standing traditional event. Like here in Australia, we have non-surgical symposium, which is probably, I don't know if it's the longest going, but it's one of the more traditional events.
Yeah, and one of the more popular ones too.
But over the last few years, especially after COVID, we had this sort of reconfiguration of what do people want, what do people like, what's value, and then you go to some of the bigger events like IMCAS, AMWC. They've just happened this year. A lot of people have been feeding back, bloody hell, there's like 17,000 people. It's too many things, too much. It felt overwhelming. It's too expensive to get obviously to France or Monaco. Can we do things better? So that's sort of what we mean by conference fatigue. It's like, what are we doing here?
Well, what are you getting? What are you getting in return for your time and your money? You're leaving your business, your family.
Yeah,
you've got to think about the time that you've allocated to travel and airports and staying in random countries, and you're out of your familiar environment. What are you getting in return for that?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we've discussed a lot is that a lot of these conferences start to feel the same. It's the same type of program. It's the same way of communicating the message. It's just in a different building in a different part of the world.
Yeah.
And so I really liked what Hugel did. It felt like a mini conference that was just about their messaging. It was really well put together. It was really well organized. I thought the talks were good. People, there wasn't like a crowd of thousands. There was a couple of hundred people there. So it starts to feel more personal. You don't feel like you're just some of these conferences feel like you're at like a major stadium rock concert or something where you just, there's so many people that it starts to become impersonal. It starts to become very overwhelming for your senses. For me as well, I don't like huge crowds, so I find them like really overwhelming anyway.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the really small private events. They're really targeted. And I guess from the company's perspective, they get to control their message. They're not standing in a booth with 500 of their competitors around them trying to get people's attention. It's just them, their messaging, what they want to say. It's a lot more personal. There's a lot more interaction. I was just sitting and observing and just watching, like lots of people were talking to everyone. It wasn't just like staying in your small little group of people that you knew, because there wasn't such that overwhelming mass. People tended to be more comfortable to sort of interact with lots of different people. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to maybe get the founders of IMCAS or AMWC on the podcast one day, but...
How big is too big? Yeah.
Well, yeah, like what is the goal here?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're selling tickets and you're probably making a shit ton of money from all the vendors. I get that, but for the attendee, what is the goal?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand it anymore. It feels like it's impossible to touch not even half of the engagement points. It's just impossible. You can't get to all the rooms. You can't even walk in the corridor, let alone get to the rooms.
Yeah, and I kind of start to wonder, like, what information are you getting at this conference that you couldn't get for free online?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe if there's something new or innovative that's being announced at this conference that's sort of being kept under wraps, maybe, but I don't know how often that happens. For me, I think the conferences are more about networking, catching up with your colleagues, having like a social event. I guess that kind of gives us an opportunity to talk about one of the really cool free features that we've got in our IA community app is we've got a central conference diary. And so you can see all of the major international events that are happening all around the world at any given time. You know, you can click in it, you can find out where it is, you can see a map, find out what it's all about. You can see who else is going within our community. And if you RSVP that you're going to the event, then it automatically throws you into a secret chat room where everyone else within that event or anyone else that's going to that event is also in this chat room.
Yeah.
So I guess, you know, we've identified that the whole, I guess one of the points that's not often given enough value or recognized is that ability to make new friends, meet colleagues, especially if you go somewhere out of your territory. If you're going to a foreign country, you might not know anyone.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we've tried to tackle is that, you know, if you're a member of our community, which is free, you can go in and look at all these conferences and go, okay, well, now I'm in a chat room with all these other people. Now I'm going to get more value out of this conference because it's not just about what I might learn in a lecture hall. It's about who I'm connecting with, making new friends abroad, you know, creating new social networks.
Yeah. So that app will be out in May.
Yeah. So
we'll announce a date soon, but it'll be May.
Yeah.
So looking forward to telling you more about that.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of, and I think the other point is like, again, we've spoken about this, is to have like a goal when you go to a conference, like know which talks you want to see, like what is actually that you want to learn. You know, do you have people that you want to meet there? Is there like a company that you specifically want to talk to? Is there a product you want to find out more about? You know, you actually need to have a plan. Just going there and turning up and just all of a sudden being overwhelmed with all the different talks you can go to and, you know, not having a plan, you can kind of walk away and go, okay, well, I've just spent, you know, $10,000 by the time I've paid for my ticket, my accommodation, you know, I've lost income from not being in my business. What have I actually got in return for that?
More than that from Australia. Yeah. You're totally right. It's like an assault to your senses. You come away sort of dazed and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. It can actually be detrimental. You can come away confused, feeling frustrated, like you've wasted your money. And you didn't interact with anyone because you didn't know anyone. Yeah. So it can actually be kind of negative.
Yeah. So getting back to what Hugel did, I thought it was great. Obviously, we liked being involved, and I think it's just like companies now starting to realise that there's a different way to do this.
Yeah.
These mass events with thousands and thousands of people and hundreds and hundreds, like the one we went to in Egypt, that was intense as well. I mean, not as big as IMCAS, but significant.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the kind of the other side of it. Of course, if you're from Egypt, that's a great example. It's not going to be easy for you to come to Australia or Central America, or wherever the other conferences are. So having major conferences dotted around the world, I think, is a good idea. It makes it sort of, like a democratic opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
But, you know, the IMCASs and the AMWCs, they've now got an event on every continent. I just don't know if it's needed. I don't. Well, the proof's in the pudding. If people were going, then obviously there's demand. But I'm not quite sure that was driven by the attendees. I think it was more driven by, well, we can make some more money by selling more tickets elsewhere. People were going. I'm just going to hand on heart here. I've been to the AMWC Americas one twice now. Spoken there. It's, from a personal perspective, I had a great time. But the general vibe was, well, I've kind of seen this all before.
Yeah.
Same speakers that were doing the other one are here. You're here again, Jake. Did I need to be here? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're reaching a point where the landscape of conferences will have to change because people are going to start making different decisions because you hear a lot of the same things from different people. Too many people, I can't afford to be away from my business for that long. I actually really didn't get that much out of it. I prefer to be at home with my family. I just can't justify it anymore.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people tend to follow what other people do. So everyone's going to a conference. Every company realizes their competitors are going to be there. So they're going to be there too. So there's a lot of kind of follow the leader type of scenario. But as soon as there's another option or enough of a critical mass start to push away, then it won't take much for, I guess, that concept to be reimagined, I would think. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be more online offerings, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Of course, podcasts, apps, all these kind of digital sort of solutions will help fill some gaps.
Yeah.
From a personal perspective and also from our perspective, we have loved going to some of these events. It's been
awesome.
like, mind-boggling that how many people we've met who we've connected with, and we've been connected with CEOs of companies as a result of us going to these places. We've had people on the Injector Diaries who we would never have met before.
Yeah.
We were invited to Hugel kind of as a result of our meeting of Chroma in Egypt, and so many things develop. So you cannot replace human connection.
No.
And it's super important, and I don't want to be on a computer or on my phone. That's not how I want to interact all the time.
Yeah.
COVID was a good example of how frustrating I found that. Like these webinars and these things just drove me mental by the end of it. And too many Instagram lives. But there are too many in-person conferences as well. And we've got to get that balance right.
Yeah. Or is it too many, or is it too much of the same? And so we're not going to discuss what we've thought about, but we've definitely been thinking about how we can maybe create something different, which is something coming in the future.
Yeah. 2020.
2030.
Let's get this app off the ground first.
Yeah.
One other feature that I wanted to mention about the podcast is that the event that we did at Hugel, the podcast on stage,
that was awesome.
This is actually going to be available in our new app.
Ah, yes.
So one new feature of the podcast will be that the podcast will be available in the app. So whether you listen on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, every single previous episode will be there, so you can just stay in our app. But also, we're going to have a separate feature called exclusive episodes. So some extra content or bonus content or things like we did with Hugel, they will be made available on the app. So even if you weren't at the Hugel event, you can hear what we spoke about.
Yep.
So that will be...
As long as you're an HCP.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So these new features will be coming not just as a part of the app, but as a part of the podcast.
Yeah.
So exciting times.
And again, they're free.
They'll all be free. Exactly.
My favorite price.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of what's trending for at least this week and this month. There are other things that we wanted to explore, but I think we'll dedicate whole episodes to topics like peptides. I mean, that's clearly trending.
Yeah.
The whole PDGF thing that's raging in America. Some of these things, we know that they're trending, but we would rather find people really immersed in those topics rather than talk about it ourselves when maybe we're not the experts of some of these things. So if you want to put your hand up for a peptides episode or a PDGF debate with someone who's anti or pro or whatever, let us know. Reach out.
Totally. And hopefully this situation resolves itself and things return to normal and everyone can put fuel on their cars, because I don't want to do another episode on this if it's going to get worse.
Yeah, look, I don't think this is obviously the end of this, but hopefully that's given you some food for thought.
Yeah.
Go and buy your baked beans and rice and non-perishables.
Learn how to cook. Maybe
Learn how to cook.
Grow some of your own food, maybe.
Yeah. And no, jokes aside, reach out if you've got any comments about that.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
We hope you enjoyed that episode, guys. To stay up to date with our latest news and episodes, follow us on Instagram, and we're now on TikTok. You can also now watch our full video episodes on YouTube and Spotify. So if you like what we do, please give us a like and subscribe. Please also consider joining our Patreon for invaluable business and injectable education. Get access to our global community of like-minded professionals, hints and tips videos, bonus podcast content, and more. All of our social links, Patreon, and contact information are in the show notes below, and we'll see you in the next episode.